There is an intelligence that existed before you were born and will exist well after you die. And it is the same intelligence that tells the flowers to bloom, and the same intelligence that tells
Welcome to season 1 of Beyond the Human. Remember who you are. I'm your host, Hazel Ray, singer-songwriter, experiencer, and messenger for those walking the edge of remembrance just like me. This is not a podcast to convince you of anything. Really, just take what resonates, leave what doesn't. This is a transmission, a call to the ones waking up, the ones remembering, the starseeds, the sensitives, the truth seekers, bridging science and spirit. If you're listening to this, you are ready. So let's remember together.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Human. I'm your host, Hazel Ray, and today we're going to talk about starseeds and the truth about frequency, or my truth, and how I understand what frequency is. So starseeds is sort of a new age term, and look, there is no rule as to whether someone can go and test if they are a starseed genetically or anything like that to prove using science. It's really coming down to a knowing as to whether or not you feel that that is potentially who you are. And if you're watching my podcast or listening to my podcast, it's probably highly likely that you are. And maybe you felt really misunderstood in your life. Maybe you've been able to read others really well. Maybe you've had a longing feeling in your life that there's something more. Have you felt homesick? For me, these were all what I understood as my symptoms of, longing to be somewhere else, which wasn't Earth. And potentially, maybe I felt like Earth was really difficult to be on, because now I understand the different densities or dimensions of consciousness, that we actually live in quite a dense reality. And for starseeds, they can find it really challenging to exist here. Some examples of in my life how I've really felt this. My family will remember that, interestingly, I never wanted to go to bed without the television on. So my mum and my dad would be downstairs, and I'd absolutely psych it and get really upset if they beat me to bed. So if they were going to bed before I was asleep. And I really wanted the television on. Never understood why. For as long as I can remember, going to sleep with the television on really helped me. The other thing is I did see dark shadow entities, and I mean in my reality, not in my mind. And my dad would come and sit with me, and I remember this very one night, I could see them in the hallway walking back and forth. And I said to Dad, can you see those? And he's like, no. And then again, I'm questioning, why can I see something that my dad can't? Is there something wrong with me? And I also remember when I was in my teens, I used to climb out my window onto the roof and I'd look at the stars, and there was just something about the wondrous universe that made me feel homesick. Maybe that I wasn't supposed to be here. I felt like I didn't really fit in. I was really good at reading people and changing myself to fit in. And some might attribute that to my upbringing and potential traumas. But the thing is that a lot of these things, the lucid dreaming I had and the very vivid dreams of leaving my body and things at a young age, that was a lot before those sorts of things had happened. So yeah, I definitely have a knowing that my essence isn't just fully from living many lifetimes on Earth. I definitely resonate with, in particular, the Pleiades star system and the Pleiades mission on Earth. And if you look that up, there's a double mission to experience being human, but also to help raise the consciousness of humanity. And for the longest time, I have felt like I've had a message to share with the world. I have mentioned this in previous episodes about how I was sort of obsessed with fame, and I genuinely thought I really wanted to be famous. And then I'd have a second thought and I'd be like, but not too famous, because, then you become a target. Not even sure why that was coming in. And as I got older, I realized that it wasn't necessarily the fame that I was seeking, it was the influence. And now I sort of resonate with the fact that if I had a large influence, then maybe I could help change the world. And then as I get further along my journey, I realize that if I just change myself and I become more of me, then I'll have a ripple effect and I'll inspire others to be more of them and others to be more of them. And then we have this ripple effect and then we change the world like that. So I don't necessarily need a massive platform. I already know I'm doing the work that I feel that I came here to do, just by potentially just interactions that I have in the day. But nonetheless, here I am sharing this information with you now. And so if you do resonate with a certain Starseed collective, please let me know. I'm always interested to hear. I'm not going to go into the specific names and their influences. You can look them up yourself. Just literally ChatGPT, Starseed races and their missions on Earth, and one will probably jump out at you. Something that usually comes along with this whole starseed notion is the ego can come in and be like, oh, okay, well, are you better than the other people in humanity? And I want to debunk that right now and say, not at all. How I understand it, and maybe I'll put a demonstration on my YouTube channel properly of my theory, but I want you to think of a giant bowl of water, okay? And that giant bowl of water is the entire universe. Everything in it is all this giant bowl of water. And then if you put a glass, you get one glass shape and you put it in the water, you dip it in the water and you pick it up. That glass is now holding part of the essence of the universe. And I could get other cups and other cups. And that's how I see how what a human soul is essentially a collective part of the essence that we are created from. If you put that glass of water inside the bowl of water, you will notice that the water is still all on the outside of the glass. And so when you hear these theories of that we are all one and we're not actually separate, the way I kind of see that is exactly like that. The only barrier between our essence and the essence outside of us is this vessel that we're in. But we are not detached at all. We have the illusion that we are disconnected because we have this sense of self, an identity that we are separate from. So then starseeds is one step further in my analogy. If you can picture then the same glass, because we are in a human form, but within that bowl of water there are different sections with different food dye. So there might be a section in the bowl of water that has a little bit of red food dye and a little bit of blue food dye. So there's a slightly different color to the different in the bowl of water, but it's still water, just slightly different color. Get the human glass, so the glass that represents the human body, and you dip it into, say, the red water in the corner, and then you bring that over. So next to the other glass, we have two glasses exactly the same, but their water inside is slightly different. And I see that as slightly different resonance, different energy, vibrating in a slightly different frequency, but all living side by side because we're all created from the same source. Does that kind of make sense? Please leave in the comments if that does. I will definitely try and do it in my bath. And then you can get different shaped glasses and do the same thing. And then that's the idea of aliens essentially have a different 5-star frame. The Greys or the Nordics, they're all these 5 points and they hold the essence as well. So that's my theory on how we are all one. So then linking that back again with the ego, if we're all one, always have, always will be, just constantly vessels taking essence from the collective consciousness. What happens, I have found on earth, is some people say, oh, that person's an old soul and, they have a lot of wisdom, and I'm not taking that away from those souls. But how I've now understood it is that those souls have just incarnated on this earthly plane many times over. So they're an older soul on this planet, in this collective consciousness. Yeah, this bowl essence of water here. And potentially starseeds have lived more lives, I suppose I could say, on different planets, in different collectives of energy, so different food dye water around the big bowl of water. They've lived more lifetimes there, and they've come here to this consciousness, or this collective, to experience what it's like to be human. And then the essence is holding a vibration. So remember, I might have blue water inside of me, and I'm using this from my analogy. So my inner core frequency would be vibrating at a slightly different frequency to someone who's lived many lifetimes on Earth. And then how I see what a star seed is to do is they are being seeded into Earth with their vibration. And through conduction will vibrate and start to raise the frequency of those around them. And the analogy for this is, if you boil water and put it in a glass, and you put a metal spoon in that glass, what happens to the metal spoon? Eventually, the heat will travel all the way up to the top of that metal spoon, and it'll be boiling hot. Because what happens is, at the very tip of that spoon, once it's entered the water, so the spoon goes in, starts to heat up the atoms inside the metal spoon, and they bump and they vibrate and they hit the next ones, and then they start vibrating faster, and then we hit the next ones, and then so on and so forth until the whole spoon is vibrating at this higher frequency, making it hotter. If a human has an essence that's vibrating at a slightly higher frequency, then remember, I'm connected to all the water around me, so I'm going to slowly start heating up that water around me, and then that's going to permeate until it reaches another glass, and then it's going to filter through the glass and heat up that, and then heat up the essence, and slowly but surely we start to raise the vibration of the people around us. Now, we can use words and all those sorts of modalities to sort of help communicate information, which is also frequency, sound, music. We've all been somewhere and a person walks into a room and they just have this magnetic presence, and you're drawn to them. You want to go and speak to them. And how I understand that is a star seed planted in earth, going around and sharing their high vibration. It's attractive. You want to be around it. Star seeds are here to be weird. We are here to take off our mask, all the programming that society has created, and come back to remember who we are and why we're here, and become more of ourselves. Because the more you decide to take off the mask and step into your truth, you encourage others to do the same. And slowly but surely, I do feel that is happening in society, that people are slowly but surely trying to follow their passions and follow their inner path or the inner guidance. So the question is, how do we become more of ourselves? And the key for me when asking myself, what is my purpose on this planet? And this came very strongly after my awakening, and I'm wondering, why am I a teacher, and why would I go back full time? That doesn't light me up. And I've said this before, but the saying is, if you do the thing that lights you up the most in this world and lose yourself in the doing, you'll light up the world without even trying. If every single human on this planet followed their passions, the world would be a much lighter, happier place to be in. And I'm not saying that you have to go on that's monetized, but just even doing one of your hobbies. And it's, you find that passion and you do it unapologetically until it doesn't feel like your passion anymore. And then you pivot. And then you do that thing. Some people think that you're supposed to have one purpose or one passion in your whole life and you devote your whole life to it. And some people have that and some people don't. I've been so drawn to do this podcast. But before this, I was so drawn to release my music. So I'm still releasing my music. I still have a lot of passion for that. And I'm still driving hard at that. I love presenting in front of crowds. So I love being on stage. I love sharing information. I love watching people's eyes light up with wonder and hope and, inspiration. And then here I am in front of a camera, sitting in my lounge room talking to myself. But I've probably spoken to myself for a lot of my life. So, and if it helps someone out there tonight, tomorrow, yesterday, what is time anyway? But please do, down in the comments, please let me know if what I'm sharing is actually helping you, because it helps me then know that to continue on. Okay. So we've spoken about starseeds, we've spoken about how we're all connected and starseeds aren't better than anyone else and what they're here to do and how you can become more of yourself if you are a starseed struggling to find your mission. So then let's talk a little bit about frequency. There is an intelligence that existed before you were born and will exist well after you die. And it is the same intelligence that tells the flowers to bloom and the same intelligence that tells the baby to grow an eye today, grow a leg today, put all the DNA together and develop a beautifully healthy baby in a woman's tummy. I've been pregnant and I found it quite an alienating experience in the sense that I had this human growing and I'm me. But I have no control over how that baby's growing. I'm not saying, oh yeah, let's grow an eye today. So that in itself, and thinking about that question, we are so much more than what we think we are. Just because Sigmund Freud once said, I think, therefore I am. It's like, I think, and I am part of all. I'm not separate from you. We are all one. How I see it is we're all one pool trying to experience ourselves in all these different glasses. And then at the end of our time, we pour that essence right back into the pool we came from. And then that brain holds more information. All right, so the truth about frequency. And then it will make more sense as to how it is that starseeds and mediums and people receive this information. When you see something, you are able to see between 420 nanometers to 700 and something nanometers. It's like 720 or something as well. So our eyes can detect that frequency in that bandwidth. Your ears can detect a different bandwidth, but they're all sine waves at different frequencies. When the light enters the eye, you have rods and cones in your retina, they're cells, and they change the light energy into chemical energy, which then goes along your optic nerve to your occipital lobe, and then that's decoded as what you see. Okay? Now, there is research that has been done on the DNA in your cells. So you have a double helix, a long strand of DNA that has code on it. Interesting. Code. Everything is made up of code. But yeah, in your cells, this double helix strand that is twisted all into this fractal globular in a really beautiful pattern. And then they've found that in different shapes, that DNA can conduct electricity. Okay, so how is a message received? How are you receiving my podcast right now? Are you listening on your phone? Are you listening on a computer? You're not plugged into my phone. So your phone is able to receive a frequency and then be decoded in your phone to then share the information. So we have antennas, like what you used to have on the TV. We had these rabbit ear antennas, right? And you would change the length of the rabbit ear. And if the rabbit ear, was slightly off the frequency for, say, channel 7, it would be, and someone would be like, and a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, no, that's it, like, stop, hold it there. I have so many memories of this. Anyway, and so the length of that antenna is the length of one sine wave, so we're able to tune into that frequency. We've been able to create these fractal antennas, which are like a pattern of lengths, I suppose, if I could say it like that. And what it means is you're able to have an antenna that is able to detect multiple different frequency lengths, which increases the bandwidth of information. So phones now can receive a crazy amount of different frequencies. That's why it can do all the things that it can do. Now we have this fractal globular in our DNA that can undo and be replicated. That's how we have DNA replication. So it can unravel and come back together and create different shapes. So what if it is our DNA that is in fact our fractal antenna that is receiving information constantly? I mean, I only have to say to you right now, have you ever been speaking to someone and they say something so profound and you get goosebumps, or what I call truth bumps? Is that not that frequency, or the frequency around you that you're all connected to? Because remember, you're in this pool of water and the only thing is your barrier is your skin from this outside information. So is it not all just one fluid of communication? And depending on what DNA is activated for you, depends what information you're able to receive. This can go even further, and I might have another episode on this later about the chakra system. And there is a theory in the Pleiadian Master Teacher's book by Michael Love that just denotes that we actually have 12 chakras, and that we in fact have 12 strands of DNA in our body. At the moment we're saying that there are 2, and they've even found in humans quadruplexes. Look it up. Quadruplexes are 4-stranded DNA sequences in our cells, which means that we have 4 strands of DNA activated, 4th dimensional consciousness, and then potentially, in my eyes, another antenna activated to receive information. And I wonder if, starseeds, when they come to Earth, because how I remember my near-death experience or my out-of-body experience in episode 2 is that when I was trying to come back into my body, I had to slow my vibration down to get back into my body. So existing in other realms or having access to the quantum, your frequency needs to be higher. So is it possible that when these souls are entering the vessel inside the mother, that they have to slow down their vibration? But are some of these starseed children coming in with higher vibrations to begin with? Does that explain why we have, autism and things like that on the rise? Are kids just, they have a greater bandwidth and therefore they're constantly receiving information that it's overwhelming for the system? And whereas potentially if you slowly awaken and unblock chakras throughout your lifetime, it's easier to navigate and to hold in the body. But it's just something to ponder. Other thing to ponder is they've been doing so much research on music and water, and how, music obviously holds a frequency. And again, in my episode about leaving my body, I speak about these geometric patterns. So if frequency creates patterns, when it interacts with your body, it's going to have an influence at potentially a cellular level. So music, the words people speak, they all have influence. And I do really believe also that therefore that's why it makes sense that some people like this music and other people like this music, because of what that resonance does to something inside of them, whether it's releasing a blockage or it's activating some sort of cell sequence. But I see them as all as transmissions, and every artist on this planet is sharing their gift, activating parts of humanity. If you've enjoyed the episode tonight, please give it a thumbs up, or on whatever platform you're on, please give me a comment. Tell me what you thought of it. Any questions that you might have, feel free to email me. You can go to my website, hazelray.com.au, and ask me any questions, and send to a friend if you think they might enjoy it.
And remember, the world doesn't need saving, people do. And if we give the people the tools to save themselves, we save the world. I'm going to leave you with a song that is already out on Spotify called Lonely, which I really wrote from the perspective of a starseed growing up. Someone who felt a little left out, a little different, a little unsure of the world. And yeah, for those of you who may not even resonate with starseeds, but resonate with this feeling of disconnect, this is a reminder that you're not alone. I'll see you in the next episode, which is all about navigating a psychic attack, and I share some more stories there. See you next time.
As a kid, I used to look at the stars, they're so alive, and wonder why they made me feel so homesick. Used to see things others could done, used to hear things others should done. And as I got a little older, the voices started taking over. I was so scared and alone until they helped me see you ain't lonely, you ain't lonely, 'cause I am you and you are me. You're never lonely, can't you see? And as a kid, I used to look at my friends and just pretend that I was them and that I didn't feel different. What a lie it was. Hey, they couldn't see your us. And as I got a little wiser, I realized I was vibing higher, no longer scared and alone, because they helped me see you ain't lonely, you ain't lonely, 'cause I am you and you are me. You're never lonely, can't you see? 'Cause you ain't lonely, 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 'cause you ain't lonely. You are me, I am you, you are me, I am you, you are me. You ain't lonely, you ain't lonely, 'cause I am you and you are me. You're never lonely, can't you see? 'Cause you ain't lonely, 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 lonely. The truth is, you're never alone.